Imagine living your life without the constant fear of losing people, without the anxiety of being replaced, ignored, or forgotten, without waking up every day measuring your worth by someone else's attention, replies, or presence. Because Stoicism asks you a powerful, life-altering question. If you lived as if you had already won, how would you love? How would you speak? How would you walk away? And how would you stay when things became uncertain? Because the truth is, most people don't suffer because they lose relationships. They suffer because they lose themselves inside those relationships. They hand over their peace, their confidence, and their identity to outcomes they cannot control. But Stoic philosophy teaches something radically different, something ancient yet painfully relevant today. Real victory is not keeping someone. Real victory is keeping your character, your dignity, and your inner balance intact, even when someone chooses to leave. Because when you live as if you've already won, you stop begging for reassurance, you stop negotiating your boundaries, and you stop chasing people who are unsure about you. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough about yourself to not abandon your own soul. And this is where Stoic love begins. Not loud, not needy, not desperate, but calm, grounded, and deeply present. Because Stoicism never teaches you to suppress emotions. It teaches you to master them, to feel deeply without being destroyed by what you feel, to love fully without attaching your worth to being chosen. Because attachment is not love. Attachment is fear disguised as affection, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of facing yourself in silence. And the modern world amplifies this fear through ghosting, mixed signals, delayed replies, and emotional unavailability, turning relationships into psychological battlegrounds where people compete for power instead of building connection. But the Stoic refuses to play this game, because when someone disappears without explanation, the Stoic does not collapse into self-blame. They understand a timeless truth. Other people's behavior is a reflection of their character, not your value. And so the Stoic grieves without degrading themselves. They hurt without humiliating themselves. They accept loss without losing self-respect, because they know that chasing clarity from someone who lacks courage will never bring peace. And this is why Stoic strength is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand closure. It doesn't seek revenge. It simply chooses not to shrink, not to beg, not to betray its own principles. And this is what emotional discipline looks like. Pausing before reacting, choosing silence over impulsive words, choosing dignity over drama. Because every reaction is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. And when you live as if you've already won, you stop needing to prove anything. You don't need to win arguments. You don't need to control outcomes. And you don't need to be understood by everyone. You only need to remain aligned with your values. Because Stoicism reminds you daily that you control only two things in this world: your thoughts and your actions. Everything else is borrowed, temporary, and outside your command. And once you truly accept this, relationships stop being cages and start becoming choices, because now you love without chains, you give without keeping score, and you walk away without hatred when respect disappears. Because staying where your soul feels diminished is not loyalty, it is self-abandonment. And the Stoic never abandons themselves, even in heartbreak, even in loneliness, even in silence. They understand that solitude is not punishment, it is training. Training to sit with yourself without distraction, without validation, without escape. And this is why the Stoic builds a life beyond love, a life with purpose, meaning, discipline, and inner structure, so that love becomes an addition, not a foundation. Because when one person becomes your entire emotional universe, their absence becomes your collapse. But when your life is full, loss becomes painful, but not fatal. And this is the silent power Stoicism gives you, the power to accept reality without resentment, to release people without bitterness, and to move forward without carrying emotional poison. Because acceptance is not weakness, it is clarity. It is saying, this happened, this hurts, but I will not let it turn me into someone I don't respect. And that is the final Stoic victory. Not applause, not validation, not getting someone back, but standing alone if necessary with your integrity intact. Because when you live as if you've already won, rejection no longer defines you, silence no longer controls you, and loss no longer destroys you. Because you understand that no one can take away what was never theirs to own, your self-respect, your values, and your inner peace. And so, you love bravely, you leave gracefully, and you endure quietly, knowing that the greatest relationship you will ever have is the one you maintain with yourself. And if you can protect that, then no matter who comes or goes, no matter who stays or disappears, you have already won.